Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Sight Club. It's Tom Sidney Bushnell, aka Numbers, and I have Rachel from Right Side Blonde here with us, and the exceptional tarot by Janine. How are you, ladies?
I'm good.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very good.
Excellent. Well, we've got quite a few really fascinating questions to go through today. Just one thing I just wanted to announce that I've got a new show coming out, a new channel, and it's called The Tom Numbers Show, Top of Your Game. And interesting enough, we mentioned the word top of your game, or top of our game, in the episode you and me did, Janine, back in just before the end of the year. And people can see the links down below, and I've been getting a lot of help with the show, so thank you. And I'll give you a little teaser. You'll see the links, but you'll see Michael Gambon, who played Dumbledore from Harry Potter. So he's the first guest. Second guest is Matt Letitia, he was a world-class soccer player, world-class football player, who's on our side of things. And maybe we'll be able to incorporate him in some shows. And he's done tarot reading as well before, Janine. We spoke about that in the episode, so we mentioned you in it. Gus Poyet, who is a former Chelsea, Uruguay, and Tottenham Hotspur footballer. He's currently a Greek football manager. And Gus is someone I've known for a while, very open guy. And Sven Goran Eriksson used to be the England soccer manager. So I had a good chat with Sven today, so that'll be out in a couple of days. And I've got some other great guests lined up from music, from entertainment, and it's a talk show, but with the numbers, a little bit added in. So that's what it is. So check it out, everyone. Subscribe and hit the like button and watch all the 3 or 4 episodes that we'll launch. So without any further ado, we'll get going. Janine, Rachel brought to my attention, and I subsequently watched the episode. You did a reading a few days ago where you were talking about the guy that had been watched and contacted by what seems to be the White Hats. And then you did a reading and you were checking whether you had been watched by the good guys, maybe the bad guys, maybe a bit of both. And that was really fascinating. So I wanted to ask the question about Rachel. Has Rachel been, I know in previous episodes you said that Rachel been kind of kept in abeyance for a while until she could kind of blossom and come out, which she's starting to do now. So I'm wondering if she's being watched from either side and kind of where she sits on the board with that.
Okay. Wow, I think she is being watched by the good guys.
Yes, I thought so.
That's Mr. T in the White Hats kind of card, right? Or the Alliance card. And then this surprise card, it's in the middle. So I don't think they've been watching her nonstop, but maybe recently. This is a breakthrough card, and this is just at the beginning of something. So I think they're just starting to notice for whatever reason, or just put her on the radar, and could even have her in the future in a position that would be like speaking the news, or this woman speaks truth and could even be in a public way speaking truth. So she could be a broadcaster, but remember, news will have to change, right? Like mainstream media is not gonna make it through this, obviously, because they've given their chances of redeeming themselves are nil as far as I'm concerned. So I feel like you might be asked to be some kind of a broadcaster on a show or something. Wow.
I can see that. I can see that.
I need a little more practice if that's going to happen, guys. So I'll be practicing on that. Okay, right, Janine, I have to ask about Tom now because I'm curious if he's being watched. It's kind of like you're trying out for a team, and if you've made the cut, like, are they watching me, or am I going to be recruited for this, next step, or what's going on? But I don't know. We'll see what the cards say about Tom.
Are you okay with this, Tom?
Yes.
Sorry, Tom.
Have you already been contacted in the past, Tom? Somehow I get you might be already working on their team. Are you?
Not to my conscious awareness, no.
Okay.
I mean, I believe I'm working at, I've always been saying that President Trump leaves messages and Easter eggs in the numbers, and I decode those.
I think he does. I think they consider you working with them already.
Well, that's cool.
Wow.
I thank them for that. But I've not had a conscious kind of knock at the door or an actual kind of physical disclosure from someone.
Maybe you soulfully are. You made a contract spiritually to do this.
I believe that's the case.
I think we all did. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
They definitely are aware of you and consider you a team player.
Right. Awesome.
Yeah,
that's
so
awesome.
That would be cool.
I wonder, I always talk about this, but when I met Ivanka Trump in 2015, I can pinpoint the beginning of my number journey from then, even though it wasn't very clear at the time. And I think I said in the episode with you, or maybe the Mark Atwood one I did, I felt activated when I met her.
Yeah.
It was just very quick, but I can kind of pinpoint it from then. So that's really cool to know. But consciously, soulfully, for sure. And I think you are as well, 100%, so I think we all are.
Oh, yeah.
So
it's a given that you are, Janine.
What's that?
I said it's a given that you are, Janine.
Yeah. You must have got a kick out of my early videos then.
Yeah. But no, you're leading you're the only tarot lady I know, but I instantly knew, as soon as within seconds, I was like, wow, she's world class. I can see you TV show and everything. I was like, I was sold immediately. That's incredible that we're all working.
Yeah. Can I tell Janine the story, Tom?
Yeah. Go on. Yeah.
So we were talking last night about our episode today, and we were talking about the white hats in your episode about, if you're being watched and that kind of thing. And at 11 minutes and 47 seconds, which we've talked about the numbers before for me, how they happen. Well, at 11 minutes and 47 seconds into our phone conversation, my phone went beep, beep, right when I said, Janine gives great information. I had just said that. And the phone, it was like confirming, like beep, beep, yep. And there was nothing. There was no, notification or anything. It just beeped twice. It's never done that before. And the time was 7:40 p.m. So
wow.
7s and 4s, right when I said that, this beep almost as if like a yep. You're right.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah. So I just thought I'd share that. Sorry, Tom.
No, that's it. Brilliant. I mean, 740. So 747 plus 40 is 47. But if you just do 740, so drop the 0, 74, that's tarot. And it's also gematria. So, a double common, triple common, all of it. So that's amazing. Can we look at it a little further, Janine, in regards to that? So does it seem like we're going to maybe get another kind of, maybe a more direct physical contact from the white hats?
Well, when I did mine, I did get an ace in the future. So I thought maybe they'll contact me because that's a direct contact.
Yes.
Okay, so we're asking about the two of you.
Please,
we actually already got Rachel. Absolutely is good. I think you're going to be asked to be a broadcaster. So we got that. Now we're looking at Tom. Tom?
Please,
because it looks like I got a yes on Rachel and I. So I get a yes on that too. So right now we have these two cards. So some stuff has to go down and a big turn has to happen, which is basically upon us. So I feel like just all of the things coming to the foreground where the movie ends to some degree, we are in on, and the rest of the humans are in on this, even if they don't like it, don't listen to it, they'll at least have it in their face. That's what I think that might be. They have to wait, and then they'll be getting a hold of.
Okay.
So then you'll hear from them. And this is a 6 of Swords. You'll get clarity is literally what the card talks about.
Awesome.
Yeah.
you said about Rachel being a broadcaster, so that makes a lot of sense because, and you said I think you used the word like recently in regards to, they've been kind of watching her and taking more notice recently. So you'll remember that she's got a George collection that she does on her channel on Right Side Blonde, and each week she prepares like a really professional kind of presentation, like a kind of broadcast kind of info documentary thing each week. So she's already training herself for that, and it's getting, her shows are getting better and better. Not that they were never not good, but she's just getting really polished at it, And also the direct contact. So she's actually friends with Vincent Fushka. I mean, I've met Vincent, but definitely Rachel is I would say a good friend of Vincent Fushka, and it seems like Vincent is probably part of the White Hat team at some level. I would think so. That makes a lot of sense that she's kind of been contacted in such a way. So
wow,
yeah,
cool.
My ear
Did you
just
have a
started
question,
ringing.
Rach, you wanted to go into? Or
My ear just started ringing, and that was my next question. That's kind of funny. So the last time I was actually wearing the same shirt. I was hoping maybe I could get another orb. That was like the last time we were in a video together. It shot, I don't know if you saw it, Janine, but it started on my forehead, and it went around my ear, and then it shot straight out of my nose. It was crazy. I've never seen one like that. It was not like a slow moving orb like you normally see. It was like very light and very wanted to be seen.
It was golden in color.
It was very bright. Yeah. So, and it went around my right ear. So prior to that, I was like, well, that makes sense why my right ear keeps ringing. I'm curious if the orb was trying to draw attention to that and just kind of confirm like, yep, that's me. That's ringing in your ear.
Wow, this is really weird. Very, very interesting. So it seems to be connected to a secret organization to the good. That could be Mr. T and the White Hats. Like, I don't know how an orb could be connected, but don't forget that some of the members are off-worlders and or our future selves, or like time folds, I think, and these guys are aware of it and use that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I got a feeling weirdly so that you were being signaled, or some kind of signal was happening using that orb.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's to the good though. So
Yes.
to the good of. So I think it's saying you were given good information, or you got that right, or because that's the 9 of Cups, which is a wish coming true. So whatever you were saying, I'm going to.
Ironically, it was Tom. Tom was speaking when it happened, and that whole video, it didn't pop up. But the one time it popped up was when Tom was saying my numbers. 7, he goes 7, 4, 47. The numbers that Rachel gets right when he said that is when it popped up.
So something true about that.
Yeah.
And also they might have wishes for where they want you, what they want. They want to place you in a position. That's what I think.
Awesome.
They're ringing in the ears. Do you ever get that, Janine?
Yep.
What is that? What do you make of that?
I just pay attention, and something's happening. Don't ignore the present. Be present. Pay attention, something I'm saying or doing, or something to notice around me. Okay, like for instance, today I was in the bank and I was waiting, and you know how they play that background music in banks, like really low and you can barely hear it. But throughout, I could hear a cat meowing. And I was like, okay. And my first thought was they got a cat meowing in the music, but it sounded too loud for the music. It was above the music. So I was like, is there a cat in the bank? Nobody else seemed to notice. Okay. And then I said, am I receiving a sign? It just popped in my head. Am I receiving a sign? Because I've been wondering if my bank's okay, if going to be okay in the coming times. Okay. So I said, so a cat in the bank would tell me yes, because cats are really good. And to me, so it would be a personal sign to me. So that's just how my mind works. Then my ears started to ring. Okay, so I think it was saying yes and confirming and listen to that sign basically. And then the cat meowed again. So when I got up to the front, I asked the lady if there was a cat in the bank. And she looked really funny, almost like she wouldn't tell me even if there was. So I said, okay, do you have a cat under your, and she went, oh yeah, I keep a cat in my pocket. And then she just kept doing what she was doing. So I don't know if there was literally a cat, but there was definitely a sign from the universe that it was going to be a good bank, and the ringing in the ear went along with it. So those are the kind of things I pay attention to when my ear rings. It's confirming or getting me to pay attention.
Okay, that's kind of how I take it too. I'm just like, okay, what was I just thinking when it popped up? So I'm glad to hear that you said. And does it matter what side you hear it on? Like, does the right ear mean something? I know Tom has said. Tom, what did you say? If you hear it in your right ear versus your left?
I go with the premise that the right side is the male side of the body, and then the left side, where the heart is on the left, is the female side. So, usually everyone, even male or female, usually their left side of their face is usually a bit prettier than the right side. So it's just, and Janine seems, she's confirmed that. So that's what I,
sense, yeah.
Yeah.
And also the right might be you're getting a literal sign, and the left might be you're going to have a spiritual sign.
Yeah.
Or some kind of a nod spiritually, or literally if it's right, more in the earth, on the earth plane, and physical literal.
Yeah.
So, or what we think is literal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Spaceship Earth. Is it literal?
Oh, speaking of cats.
Yeah. Janine, I've got a question. I've noticed we mentioned Shane Warne, the cricketer, a few weeks ago. Yeah. But something came up on one of the news channels here, which is Talk Sport here in England. Talk Sport's 132, which is JFK, JR is alive. It's also Princess Diana. It's also Simon Jordan, who I know is one of the presenters. His name is 132 as well. Oh, there is a cat. That was the one that was meowing. There you go. A nice ginger cat. But there was a few days ago, so part of last week, there were two ex-footballers, soccer players, that came up on the news show. Yep. One of them's called Michael Owen, who used to be a world-class footballer. He won European Footballer of the Year. He played with people like David Beckham, Frank Lampard, etc., and Gerrard. And then there was Michael Chopra, who was he played at a high level. He wasn't as well known or as good as Michael Owen. But I did the numbers on Michael Owen, and they came to 108, which comes to Shane Warne. Now, something really curious during this broadcast happened. They were promoting what they call the Indian Premier League for soccer. Now, the Indian Premier League, the IPL, is well known for cricket, and Shane Warne was a key player. I think he might have won the IPL, or he was a big key player in that. But what happened is, while they were talking, something very unusual happened. They had the promotional board behind them for the IPL, and they're on the radio station, but it's being broadcast live on YouTube. But all of a sudden, something just tipped over and gently hit Michael Owen and Michael Chopra. It tapped them on the head, and it just looked peculiar to me. I was like, it felt like a sign from the White Hats confirming something. I thought what I got was that there was a connection, that they were somehow confirming what we'd done about Shane Warne being protected and working with the White Hats. I'm just wondering, was that another com from Michael Owen and Michael Chopra? And indeed, was it Michael Owen or Michael Chopra? I was wondering if it was even Shane Warne, maybe CGI'd or masked or something. I don't know, but it felt like a heads up from the comms that we'd done a couple of weeks ago.
I think so again. Yeah. So we got the Mr. T and the White Hats kind of card. And then we've got, this is like a little tiny nod maybe, but it would be really small because it's the page. So, and maybe even only for a certain people to notice. So you noticed it. I bet a lot of people just brushed it off as an odd coincidence, obviously, right?
Yes.
And something about things will come out that will really confirm it in the future is what I'm getting.
Okay. Excellent.
Things are really different than they seem right now around situations around those guys. And just over time, we're going to find out truths.
Can we look at it a little further, particularly in regards to Michael Owen? So he was the more well-known player of the two, and his name adds up to Shane Warne 108, Twilight 108, Fitzgerald 108. I'm just wondering, was Michael Owen conscious of that signal? Is he part of the White Hats, or did it just kind of happen despite him being there? Well, in spite of him being there.
No, he was unaware, and that signal was for you. He was actually preoccupied and really worried about something during that interview. Isn't that interesting?
Wow.
And that was given out for others. That was like there might have been more than just you that noticed it.
Yeah.
That was for others and not for him.
Okay. Cool. So that happened in spite of him. Okay. Makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you. As well, another question I've got is, so Russell Brand, the comedian Russell Brand, Russell's been doing a lot of independent kind of truther work for the last few years. And he really seems to have amped up his game in the last, few weeks, from what I can tell. And I've done some numbers on Russell. So Russell Brand actually comes to 145, comes to numerology. And his big channel, which has maybe got, 5 or so something million followers now, is called, he has his Under the Skin, but it's got his Russell Brand YouTube channel, and sometimes Under the Skin that's his podcast, but I think sometimes he runs some of his Under the Skin shows on his main channel, or at least snippets of it. But Under the Skin actually comes to 148, which comes to simple gematria, which is the numbers, but it also comes to Donald J. Trump. So I'm wondering, and the other thing is that I shared this with Rachel. He's doing a UK tour here in the UK, and the number of venues and dates that he's doing is 17. And he's been doing a lot of, he's mentioned QAnon in the last few weeks. He's mentioned Trump and saying, and he's come out and said, I'm not a Trump fan, but he's got to kind of disinfo a bit as well. But for me, it clearly seems like he's he's working on the White Hat side and doing a lot of good at the moment. So,
yep. So I get he's been on both sides in the past.
Okay.
And to look at some of his wives and girlfriends makes sense, right? That he'd been on both sides. He's very aware of, and could even be from, a family himself that could connect itself, but then so's Trump and so's JFK.
Yeah.
Right? They're from I better not say that word. Families.
Yes. Yeah.
Dark families. Okay, so he knows of, and he knows what they're up to. Okay, but he's exposing.
Yeah.
So he's drawing attention to, and think about how big his audience is. Like, if anybody could do it. And also he's red pilling people, and he's amped his game because we're getting close to the finale here. So yeah, he's been on both sides, but he's trying to mend his past, sort of thing.
Do you see any connections between him and I'll do the gematria on it. So he's got a tattoo, I think it's on his left wrist, which is a 33. And as with all numbers, they're inherently good, but there's been, the dark side took it sometimes. But 33 comes to 156, comes to Baron Trump. 33 is magic. 33 is Don, as in, Donald Trump, Don, D-O-N. But if you do Russell Brand 145 numerology plus 33, it comes to 178, which comes to emergency broadcast. So I'm wondering, is he a form or a prerequisite to part of the emergency broadcast, or is the emergency broadcast maybe different from what we may think?
Wow. I think he was contacted while he was still in the, so that he might have got that tattoo when he was still on the bad side. I'm not really getting it per se, a calm or anything. So we've got this, he was contacted by not just maybe humans, but off-worlder type energies and or ancient old soul galactic protectors, something like what I call the hermit, which is a wise old soul, could even be our future selves, future knowing, wisdom in the future, so we haven't caught up to yet. He was contacted while he was, so he might have got that tattoo. I don't get it connected to I don't get it connected the way you're asking. I'm thinking he got it.
Okay.
When he was still, and maybe it meant magic to him then.
Okay.
Because if you think about it, those 33-degree, they use magic nonstop, not the good kind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They created this whole plan with using gematria and astrological information, using tarot card readers, using all the tools they smear.
Yes.
And they, put down in public, but they use them all.
Okay.
Right.
The other thing with that is what I'm feeling is because he's able to talk so freely and so blatantly now, and he's not being shut down.
Yep.
Is that a signal to the rest of us that we've crossed a certain threshold where we can speak more freely and openly on our channels about the real truths that we know and perceive and understand and get to come to us?
Well, we're almost there.
Okay.
We have to be careful of some of the things, but we can almost celebrate. So that card's like a celebration, and that's just the general population. But mostly for him, it's because he's been on both sides. It took the bad guys a while to figure out he was actually on the good guy side.
Okay.
So he did it slowly.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe he agreed to be misinformation and then fully went on to the good side. You know what I mean? I almost get him a double agent.
Right.
I did find it interesting. He got divorced from Katy Perry. And I think as the story goes, it was via text. Like he texted her right before a concert and then she had to go and perform. At least that's what I think I heard that somewhere. Mm-hmm. But it just makes you wonder, like, what would make somebody want to get a divorce via text? And it seemed to be around the same time that maybe she admitted what she did. I mean, there's a video saying what she said, I sold my, and then fill in the blanks. I don't know if I can say it here or not, but she admitted to that. So I don't know if maybe he was on the good side and he didn't want her to do that. And then she took that plunge. Yeah. Just me speculating. I don't know.
Yeah. Don't forget, right around that time, he went into rehab and really cleaned up his act too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, definitely for the last number of, I've always been a fan. I've always liked him. I've met him, a few times over the years. And when I watch his videos, and I would encourage people to watch them because he really is, in my opinion, is right now, what he's doing is he is, like you said, red pilling. He's red pilling the masses. He's red pilling people with this, this comedic routine, but also with intellect. And I feel that he's trying to, I think he's doing an important job, and I think he's been permitted to do that from the White Hats, and hence he's not getting shut down. Right. That's the big clue. It's like he's not getting shut down, and the actual nuances of what he's saying is really on point. I can see the little bits he's got to kind of cover and misdirect, but the actual stuff he's saying is probably washing over a lot of people. He's hitting on major points, but then he's actually saying some real kind of nuanced understanding of stuff that people in our community would really respect and be glad to hear.
Yeah, I think it sits, even if a sort of a normie, as we want to call them, is listening and they're not really hearing the full meal deal, like they might get on this channel or one of our individual channels. It goes to a certain level and sits there, and then it's just going to further help them when something really big gets revealed. Because I feel like there's a lot of people just sitting with it's all right here, and it'll drop right into their knowing,
Yes.
when something really big in the public eye shifts, and then it all comes. It's just like David Icke's been out there saying what he's been saying. So we've heard, like, even if we're the most square person in the world, we know who David Icke is, and we know what he's been saying. So even if we think he's a lunatic all those years, which of course I don't think, and I never thought, but I didn't give it enough thought, obviously, until a couple of years ago. And then I went, oh my God, he's been right about everything. Okay, so as soon as something really big gets revealed, say about the royal family, because you know what he's been saying about them for a long time, and in particular the Queen and Prince Philip and okay, so say some really big evidence comes to light, which I believe will. Okay, everybody will go back to, oh my God, but he's been saying that for, you know what I mean? So they're going to do the same thing with Russell Brand and what he's been saying. That's what I think. It's going to help. It's going to really help. It just sits there, it's unconscious, waiting.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Have you seen that 5-hour YouTube video with, I think his name's Altion Childs, the X Factor winner? Have you seen it, Tom?
I'm aware of it. I've not watched. I've been told a little bit about it. I've not watched the whole thing. Well, I may have seen a couple of minutes.
I skip and watched it in about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So
I learned a trick. You put videos on like 1.4 or books. If you're listening to books and you put it on 1.4, you can listen to it a lot quicker than.
That's a good idea.
But I listened to the whole 5-hour thing.
Woo.
It was eye-opening. Yeah. And I think everyone should watch it. I mean, take the time, watch it, watch an hour here, take a rest, and then watch the next hour. That's kind of how I did it. But it was just completely, I hope it's still up. I guess I don't know if it is or not, but if you haven't seen it, you're watching this, you should definitely watch it.
Yeah. People still send it to me, so it must be there somewhere.
Good. Yeah. Which I feel like that would have been taken down, but maybe it's still up because it's supposed to be up. We're supposed to see that, just like with Russell Brand, his stuff's not getting taken down. I'm shocked that 5-hour video hasn't been taken down yet.
Yeah, the red pills have to stay out there. They still have to stay there.
Yeah. Janine, I watched your video where you talked about your mom, how she gave you a message after she passed. I'm just curious if she's given you any more messages.
No, not literally like that, where she literally was, I could see her, but I can feel her everywhere. So she feels like she's joined the team.
Good, I love that. Good. And I love it
because she cares so much. So.
Your mom reminds me of my family because we grew up Catholic too. So, and they're very devout, so it gives me hope that eyes will be opened, maybe on this earth, on this plane or the next, like that eyes will be opened. Yeah. At some point.
They will. I know they do. As soon as they leave here, they know everything.
What was your mum's first name, Janine?
Yvette.
Yvette. So Evette.
Yep.
Okay. That's nice. So that would be
yeah, she was French Canadian. Her family. Yep.
That's well, you know what that comes to? Comes to 77, which comes to Christ, comes to power, comes to quasar. Hertz as in, frequency. So yeah, there you go.
She was very spiritual, even though the way she chose to express it was, how she was brought up, which was Catholic, but she was so true to it though, in her heart. And I always used to say she could have been born in any religion and she would have been really spiritual no matter what.
That's it.
She didn't have to be Catholic to be spiritual. My mom was a very spiritual woman. Yeah.
Christ consciousness is universal,
Yeah, totally.
So, yeah, I've got another question, Janine, about something I noticed, and I think it might have been a con for me and others might have picked it up as well, but I want to bring it up. So there's a couple of ex-footballers, one called Rio Ferdinand, one called Steven Gerrard. They both played for England. I've met both of them in my time, and they did a very recent interview where Rio is interviewing Steven Gerrard. Steven Gerrard is a football manager now of Aston Villa, but it looked to me like it was a CGI of Steven Gerrard. They made it look like they were inside the kind of indoor training ground at Aston Villa, but Steven Gerrard's face looked a little bit different. I just want to know, was that a CGI, and is there anything else to that?
Okay, so yes on the CGI.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like it was filmed in two different locations and then sort of put together, mushed together to be.
Okay.
So they weren't where they said they were.
Okay.
And maybe they were trying to fake the location or the fact that they were together or something.
Okay.
Something was falsified because of location purposes, or they couldn't get everybody together.
Okay.
If that
was there any more to that? Was the CGI part? So there was definitely the CGI behind Steven Gerrard. It looked like it was, perhaps on a blue screen, not so much on the Rio side. So that makes sense. Maybe they're in two different locations. Yeah. But was Steven Gerrard, was his actual face CGI'd at any particular point, or was it just a pure blue screen behind him?
No, it was. They were using funky business here, because this card says this is a very unique card. It said they had part of, so they might have, how they put things together. Like, I think they shoot the face over a face that's similar or something like that.
Okay.
I think they might have mixed it up. Yeah.
Okay.
Because these cards this is an illusion card. This is like smoke and mirrors. Okay. They definitely use smoke and mirrors on the person you're asking about.
Does it give you any hint on why that was? Was he being protected, or he had to go somewhere else? Or?
Yeah, he's in hiding or something. He's undercover.
Wow.
Does that make any sense?
Well, after seeing that video, it does, because I was like, well, something's going on with that. I'm going to watch Steven Gerrard even more closely now and see if it's someone else.
You'll probably see him in the park tomorrow, Tom. That's what happens.
I probably will. So if he's in hiding, is he in protection at the moment? Is he working? Is he having to give information to the White Hats? What's any more detail on what that hiding is?
I think he feels threatened.
Okay.
A particular person who's devious has threatened him.
Okay.
So that's interesting.
Huh.
And I think he has the help of the good guys they helped hide him, so he must have their favor somehow.
Good. That's good to know. Stevie G, top player. Yeah.
He was being threatened by somebody who was devious.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Janine. Oh, sorry. Go on, Tom.
Just the other part, was that connected to, was there any information on Rio, the guy that was interviewing him? He didn't really look CGI to me at the time. It looked more like Steven. So is there any information on Rio as the interviewer? Or was he just there interviewing?
Oh, that was really him.
Okay. Yeah.
So didn't even seem like, he might have had suspicions like you, but he didn't take it very far.
Okay.
He just thought, oh, interesting. I wonder why he's using a green screen or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
So not much more than that.
Thought something was funny, but he didn't really. Yeah. He kind of took it at face value and went with it.
Okay. Yeah. So you don't get any connection between the threat to the Steven, the CGI guy? No. Okay. That's cool. So Rio was just there doing his job interviewing. Okay. That's cool. Yeah. Interesting. Thank you.
Yeah.
All the talk right now in the US is about Will Smith and Chris Rock and what happened with the Oscars. I think to me it looks not real. We know that things are not as they seem. I'm just curious what the cards say. Was this a staged event? And I've heard different theories, because it was sponsored by a certain medical company that also is helping with the jab. But it's also supposedly coming out with a new drug that's supposed to help with alopecia, which is what Jada Pinkett Smith has, and that's why she has hair loss. So as a result of that joke and that incident, the searches for alopecia have gone way through the roof, and there's all these articles now. So it certainly seems like, and it makes sense, that the company that sponsored the Oscars was behind this, or in some way, shape, or form, to draw attention to alopecia, because they're going to have this new drug that's coming out. So it just seems obvious to me, but I'm curious, what do you guys think? What do the cards say on it?
Well, I did the cards on it.
Oh, you did? Okay.
On Monday night with Jean-Claude on our live.
Okay,
So
I missed it.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that's okay. And we looked at it, and we didn't go as far as trying to figure out why they did what they did,
Okay.
but we did get that neither of those guys were themselves. Both those actors and or comedian, the one comedian and the actor, or are they both considered actors? I can't remember, but both of them are absolutely either clones or doubles. Like, look at Will Smith. He looked like he looked at 35 years ago. I mean, give me a break. The guy's an old man. He's at least, I'm pretty sure he's close to my age, right? 60.
Right.
I bet he is. I bet he's late 50s or
know.
mid 50s anyway. And he does not look like that. Okay. That's not him. And also that guy, something's really different about that guy's eyes. But anyway, that's not Will Smith. And the other guy was definitely not Chris Rock. Like, there's no way. He's not even the same skin tone color. Like, it's just not the guy. Anyway, both of those guys were not them. And I got that both of those guys that they were representing have been, I think, processed.
Right.
Tribunally kind of thing. I'm thinking, that's what actually the kind of cards that came up. They weren't there. That wasn't them. So possibly that company is using, because what I get is that those kind of people are owned by certain, so their image is owned.
Yes.
Okay, so it doesn't matter if they're not there anymore. They just throw in somebody else and use they use all the fame they generated, and they just carry on without them. That's what they do. They've been doing it, and this is all going to come out. They say that April, according to astrology and what I've been getting also, April's going to be a huge reveal about what they've been doing in Hollywood that's going to really freak people out.
Huh.
It's like, it's nothing like you think it is. None of these people are who you think they are. And most of them aren't the sex they were born in and all that kind of stuff. So it's just that whole, like, I don't even know the words to say, because I don't know what I could say here, but
Mishmash.
big mess. So I did get, those weren't them, but let's ask, were the images of those two guys and whoever they put in their place being used for that purpose that you said? Because that does make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So we'll just ask, what was the slap about? Was there a devious thing behind it on either anybody's side? We don't know who's behind it. Who's behind it? Okay, surprise. So they might have wanted you to think it was that company and to show you what they do, but it was the White Hats Alliance team behind it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
That's
they must
cool.
have been in charge of the whole thing. Okay. Because I've been getting, last year we got that they were in charge. They were trying to make a mockery of that awards. It was the most ridiculous award show ever. This year, I haven't looked at it in detail, so I can't say what it looks like on the surface, but that obviously that part looks like it was manipulated for various reasons, but not to say they didn't want you to think it was because of that. Maybe they want everybody to make the connections.
Yes.
So you see what these guys have been up to.
Yeah.
There's so many different layers to this.
Yeah.
And it's so hard because you have people who are just like total 3D layer where they're like, I can't believe that Will Smith smacked, and I'm just like, it's not what it looks like. And then I sound like a crazy person. So then I just have to sit back and just be quiet and listen to them argue about 3D stuff and try not to lose it.
Yeah.
So
I've noticed something else with that as well, Janine and Rachel. So when that happened, now it could have been just the editing and the shot, choosing. So when Chris Rock made the joke to Jada Pinkett Smith, they turned to Will Smith and Jada, and Will Smith was laughing at the joke. And then you see Jada's face kind of go, all horrified about it. And then they, go back to Chris Rock, and then, here comes Will, and he comes along, and then he does the slap.
Yeah.
And then if I've quoted him correctly, he said, get my wife's name out of your mouth. And he repeated it twice. And I'm just wondering, were they trying to communicate something between the three of them? What was she born? What sex was she born? And was there something between the three of them that they were signaling to as well, in addition to it?
So all of those innuendos you were meant to catch. Okay. You were meant to catch him laughing. Then he sees his wife's face fall. Then he gets really angry and goes after. All of it was a pre-planned thing. He was meant to wait till he sees his wife's face fall. So then you really understand and really go looking for why does she wear. It's all part of the trying to get you to Google that word and find out that who sponsored the show, and they're trying to show you how these guys do what they do and what a bunch of BS it all is.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really look like it was. The three of them weren't. That they were just being used.
Okay, so there's not like a big history between them. And
it doesn't look like it.
Have you looked at Jada Pinkett Smith before? Is she? How was she born?
Never did. No, I never did. Do you want to do that?
Yeah, let's have a look.
Because if you look at the way they've been raising their kids, it's pretty obvious those kids are in I think, satanic, ritual, and then the abuse word.
Yeah,
that kind
seeing
of
him try to kiss his son on the lips.
Yeah,
like there's videos of him.
Right?
Yeah,
and also the way they're like just the stuff, like how confused they are, and about presenting themselves and like I get it. If you're a Hollywood kid, it could be confusing anyway, but you can just see something weird's going on there.
Yeah. I would agree.
Okay, so let's see if Jada was born. What was she born here? A male.
Yeah.
Wow. Wowza. Woo. Okay, so we got the tower, the 6. Yeah, by age 6, she would have been already fully transitioned. They transition them, and some of them don't even know. I mean, they probably piece it together later, but some of them don't even know for a while. Like, it's unbelievable.
Wow. Yeah. Also, with that, Janine, is a couple of episodes ago, we were talking about the UK podcaster Stephen Bartlett, and I asked the question about, because he looks very similar to Will Smith, like a young version of him. And then I asked, was there a direct relationship between them? You said maybe in terms of genetics, DNA, but not like really fathered him. And then I asked the question as well about Liam Payne, who from One Direction, and we got from the cards that Liam is a good guy, and he's maybe he's good, he's integral. Now, the interesting thing about this is he popped up at the after show of the Oscars. And they were interviewing him specifically about this event that he'd just seen with Chris Rock, Will Smith, and Jada Pinkett Smith. And he was saying, but the way he was talking, he was talking in a strange voice, and all the people commenting like, why is he talking in that strange accent? So whether it was the original Liam or he was doing comms to speak in a strange way, but he was expressing how there were only 3 losers in that thing, you know, with Chris Rock, Jada, and Will Smith. And he was saying how he used to be neighbors to Will Smith and Jada, and he's met Chris Rock and he likes him. And he's kind of trying to be, you know, play the peace card. But there was the way he was talking and the phraseology he was using, it seemed like he was sending out comms. And I'm wondering, was there even a comm, like a kind of echoing comm from the comms from the readings that we did a couple of weeks ago about Liam being a good guy and maybe signaling the card references we got a few weeks ago?
Well, he's definitely on the good side by what I'm getting here.
Yeah.
He's connected to good, but he's more or less independent. So I wouldn't say he's literally a white hat or anything.
Okay.
He's an independent thinker who's really smart and figured that stuff all out and supports that. Yeah. Right. Okay. So yeah, and he was just making the peace, or so what he was putting out there was he was just trying to settle the energy down from it, maybe.
Right.
This is like almost like a blasé card.
Okay.
You know, blasé. So it's almost like he was trying to diffuse it.
Okay.
Energetically. So that's interesting. And then 7, but then got everybody talking about that too, right? And this is interesting. I think the voice he was using might have been what you're calling a comm. So that's where there's strategy. It wasn't even about what he was saying, but it could have been the way he was saying it.
Yeah.
Somebody would have noticed that on purpose. He was doing something purposely there, and I don't know what. I don't know. It's not really telling me what, but he was definitely, there was a strategy with the voice he used.
Okay.
Wow, you don't miss a trick, hey, Tom?
No, you don't. You can't get anything past Tom.
Good, yeah.
You'll notice. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
This is not really.
No, go on, Rachel. Yeah, go.
I was just going to share a story. This is not really a question or anything. I was just going to share. So I've made a goal this year to read the Bible. I've never actually read through the entire Bible in a year. So I bought one of those 365. You read some passages, some old, some new. Well, I'm really, really far behind. I'm already failing, which is like most, New Year's resolutions. You make it until about the mid-January and then you fall off. But so I was catching up. But ironically, what I read in the Bible was, it always happens this way. What you're reading makes sense to what's happening right now. And it was the passage that was, if you're not with us, you're against us. And I really feel like that's kind of where we are at this point. Like, I don't argue with people in my comment section on TikTok anymore like I would have, because I'm just at this point, if you're not with us, you're against us. And I'm not going to take the time to explain it all to somebody if somebody who's genuinely curious, then yes. But if someone's just being difficult, then I'm not going to argue. Yep. But then later that night,
ass hat, Rach.
Yes, you stole that from me, Tom. You stole that one.
I hadn't heard it for like 15 years.
It's true.
Yeah, you reminded me of that one. Yeah,
I love that. But then I'm reading the Chronicles of Narnia to my son, and we're on, I think it's the 4th book. It's Prince Caspian. And in the book, it's the same thing. Aslan's going around and he's gathering people from the town, and there's people that are scared of him and run away. And then there's people who join him. And I'm like, that is so crazy that in the same day I'm reading the Bible earlier and there's that passage. And then later on in the night, I'm reading to my son before bed. And that part of the book comes up where, he's basically just finding his followers. And I personally really like that series. I know you've read it, Tom, too. The Chronicles of Narnia.
I love Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I love it.
Yeah.
But I just love those. I love those. I don't know, as you call them, Janine, like nods. We're on this journey, and here's where we are, and yeah.
So you should do the numbers on Aslan, Rach.
Aslan, okay.
Yeah, you should do the numbers.
Let me get my gematria calculator out.
Yeah.
Tom still doesn't use a gematria calculator on it. He still does it the old-fashioned way.
Wow. I'd be literally like counting on my fingers.
Tom, Aslan is 47.
Yeah, it's 47. There you go. Yeah.
Aslan's 47. That's awesome.
No
wonder I love the book so much.
Yeah, and he got resurrected. And that brings me on to another question I had. So just a few days ago, there was this re-emergence, or I guess a re-emergence, or at least a reporting of something that happened maybe a year or so ago. So Virginia Thomas and the text message series, and that was put out on Fox News and other news networks, and there's 4 or 5 editions of it out there. But basically, it was talking about, it mentioned Gitmo, mentioned some other things as well, but I did the numbers on Virginia Thomas. Virginia is 89, Thomas is 76, a magic wand, contact. But if you add those together, it's 165, which is resurrection, remote viewing, Christ bloodline, even Westminster, actually, which is the city within London. Well, it's the second city of London. But I guess my question, Janine, was I felt that was a major, massive red pill, what they did there, because it made normies kind of look at like, well, Gitmo, what's that? And barges, prison barges, and all those other things. Yeah. The other thing about it is Gitmo, the abbreviation of Guantanamo. Gitmo is actually 64, which is movie, which is Tenant, which is Israel, which is Jubilee. And it's also, if you do Guantanamo comes to 107, which comes to Trump's. It also comes to Joseph Biden. So you can see how dark and light marries up.
Interesting.
And it also, if you do Bay, B-A-Y, that comes to 28. But Cuba is 27, which is JFK, which is code. But Guantanamo Bay, if you do 107 plus 28, comes to 135 plus Cuba. 162, which comes to Trumpology, which is the name of my product. I just wondered, if you've done reads on that and what that bigger picture is in terms of that, because I just thought it was massive red pilling,
Yeah. So just even having that on the news, those words on the news and everything. Yeah. Yeah. I thought it was brilliant. And of course, they know people are going to stop frame it. And of course, they framed it out of context, like they were actually spilling the beans, which of course I shared everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
But of course,
it might have been on your channel. I saw it first.
It probably was. Everybody wrote me and said, okay, that was blah, blah, blah. But I was like, who cares? Like, it literally says that. That's good enough for me.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm kind of funny because I believe however you can get it out there, like I'm with the white hats that way.
Oh, yeah.
Because a lot of people complain and they write to me and they say, well, they're doing just as bad as the bad guys. I said, when you're dealing with this kind of devious thousands of years of dark magic, like, do you actually think you got to use your white magic right back at them? Like, you can't play nice. Playing nice. That's what got us into this.
Yes.
Boundaries and sticking up for ourselves and being bringing out our sword of truth. We're going to need to wield a sword, even if it's just with words and just boundaries. So not literally, obviously, but possibly in the background, there's going to be some of that too, because if those tribunal stories are true, we're going to have to face that. That's what needs to be done. I mean, some people just don't like that part of the human, like it's the human experience here.
Yes. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you have to protect, like I would protect my family in that way if I had to, like I would. My son, are you kidding? Or daughter?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Of course. And they meant harm to them in a big way. No way would I, tip pussyfoot around that excuse. They might move on to another story. It might
Okay.
evolve because this part's a little fickle. So they're just throwing it out there to see what sticks and how long it sticks. It's all part of them trying to wake people up. That's what I think, all of it. So it might move on to a different story.
Okay.
And maybe every time it gets where it gets closer to the truth, closer to the truth, closer to the truth. I've been noticing that they're just brutally saying things that we've been saying for 2 years, this community. So it's getting really in your face. Like it's going to be really hard to avoid. Even real sleepers are going to have to notice it at some point.
It's quite fun I sent it to some family members and friends, and they're like, well, I did say those words about 2 years ago to you, but so that's good. Bring it on. I think it's a really fun time right now because we are seeing the things that we've been talking about for so long.
Yeah.
Because the only way that people will believe it is in the mainstream media, and maybe there will be an EBS as well. But I think, well, I'm sure that a lot of the red pilling has to be done through the mechanism that turned them off in the first place. That's the only way to reverse it. You have to.
Mm-hmm. Janine, I just used that word, the pussyfoot word. I haven't used it in years, and then you just said it too. So it's kind of ironic that we both just pulled it out of the back of our brains.
Yeah.
I had a question about remote viewing. I just did a George collection video on remote viewing, and he was in the CIA, and then he started his own company. His name, what was his name? David Morehouse was his name. I'm curious with remote viewing. This fascinates me. But if somebody is trying to remote view you, would you get like a headache? Would you know somehow? Would you feel dizzy? Like, I'm curious because, the CIA trains people how to remote view. You can get inside the mind of a pilot, for instance, inside of a plane, so you can see the plane's capabilities. So I'm curious if someone was to try to get inside of your mind, would your body recognize
take
that?
It a step further than channeling the person, because a tarot reader, like all day long, I'd in a way do that, but not necessarily. Okay, so someone would ask, can you see how my ex-husband saw me in the last years of our marriage? That I must have done that
gotcha.
a million times. It's like, okay, or my ex-wife, and you literally get inside the head of, because that's what a reader does. Okay, so, but I've never gone as far as and I've even had got the ideas of how they found them physically, like so smelling, and I know it's weird, but I would get really weird information, let's just say, about what they really felt about that person, good or bad, and I would have to tell it in some diplomatic way if it was bad. So it was hard to do that, but never did. But I bet I could see how you could train somebody with my psychic abilities, because I know there's lots of people with that ability. I'm not just saying I'm the only one with that. Of course not. Any reader who's worth their salt is doing that all day long anyway. I was getting inside the heads of people all day long. But then to take it further and see out the eyes of and see something like that's interesting. But I could, we're 3/4 there just as a tarot reader.
Yeah.
So, wow.
I don't know. Yeah. I was just going to ask you about it and see what.
So how did you phrase it again?
If somebody was being remote viewed, would the person who is being viewed, would they know that it's happening? Would they feel like headachy or?
Largely wouldn't even notice.
Okay.
It could be completely oblivious. Okay, but unless they really, really suspected somebody was spying on them psychically. So if they were a really aware person that way, they might be able to block it. I even get.
Okay.
So, but if somebody was worried about that, what they might want to do is create a ritual where they don't agree to that. Because if you don't know, it's in a way agreeing. That's what they've been doing to humans. But if you every day created psychic boundaries and made an intention every day that said, nobody's getting in unless I let them in consciously, you could probably stop that. So you'd have to be just really have a spiritual practice that verbally did not agree to that, any of that, whoever it was coming from. Then you could probably stop it, because you have to have agreement. But part of agreement is when you don't know and you let it happen. Well, they take that as agreement. Look what they've been doing to the human race,
Right.
like feeding it to us on all these levels. We don't know what's going on, so we just go along with it. Okay, so I feel like if you thought that's a possibility, and there's a reason they might be looking at you, you might want to create a spiritual, like every morning I have like things I go through that sort of start my day. And especially if I'm going to be doing psychic work that day, right? So
yeah, I always just ask, I pray every day, and I say, put the bubble of protection around me. And I just literally picture like a bubble around me that no one can penetrate. That's what I do.
good.
I don't know if that works or not, but that's
and
what
maybe
I've been
everybody
doing.
needs to start doing that, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yesterday I was driving and I felt super dizzy, and I was like, I had to pull over, and I was like, I'm going to pass out. I don't know what's going on. I think it's because of this. I started, at full disclosure, everyone, I'm on acne medication. I hate taking medications, but I was extremely dizzy, like sweating. I think it's from that, but I want to ask your opinion. Was it like, I'm like, is somebody trying to remote view me right now? Or am I just like, is this just the medication? Cause I don't usually get dizzy like that. It was kind of shocking to me.
What was the dizzy? Unnecessary worry about that. So nobody was remote viewing you.
Okay, good. I was like,
that's not what it was from. It was something to do with something new you're doing.
Okay, so
that could be, but also it had you didn't drink enough water, maybe.
Okay.
So a combination.
Janine, you are so good. Like you are so good. I'm like, Anna, you just made me feel better too, because that's what I figured that's what it was, but I was like,
oh, good.
Your mind starts going places when you're aware of the spiritual battle. You're like, is something else going on here, or am I just okay.
I think when you take that, you need to really have a couple of glasses of water with it.
I will. I told Tom I'm gonna just knock it off, because I'll just
knock it off, Rach.
Just knock it off.
Just knock it off.
That's why I hate meds. Anyway, go on. Sorry, Tom.
You said I didn't. So Bubbles 44, which is faith, it's hope. It's also Mask. It's Abraham. But if you do Bubble of Protection is 135, which is Ivana Trump, which is John Trump, who worked with Tesla. But that comes to 200. 200 comes to Mount Rushmore, comes to Westminster Abbey, comes to Like a Thief in the Night. But if you do the Bubble of Protection, it takes you to 233, which comes to the 10 Days of Darkness, gold-backed digital currency, Follow the White Rabbit, and John Fitzgerald Kennedy. So that's a cool phrase, the Bubble of Protection. I haven't heard that before, Rach. So
well, you're welcome to use it if you want, Tom. It's worked so far for me. And Janine just confirmed that no one is trying to get inside. They can't, because of my bubble of protection. Okay, it's working. Good. So I'm glad to know it's working.
Excellent.
Yes.
I've got a question, Janine. So I've been thinking about like the process of when you draw cards, and something you just said about when you channel. So is it like, for me with the numbers, I feel like I'm kind of in a, I don't know, I guess just my intention, my awareness, my kind of flow state of just allowing me to pick up messages, and then numbers confirm it, So I think what happens with me is I'll think something, or I'll see something or hear something, and I'll notice it, and then I'll just do the numbers on it. And that's kind of how it builds up. So I don't go around looking for numbers. I just allow whatever comes in. And if it seems to put a light bulb on in my head, then I'll work out the numbers. Just like I did there with Rachel, with, Bubble of Protection, because it was unique. Do you, is it do you find it a similar, so when you're channeling, because I'm curious as well how when you pull the cards, there's the randomness element to it, but there seems to be kind of a conduit that allows the spirit world to direct the cards, much in the way, similar way with the numbers. I feel things and sense things, and then I'll just work out the numbers, and it could be any variation of numbers, but I have this kind of narrow bandwidth of being a truther, working with the white hats, etc. And they're the things that are always in my periphery, and in my main vision as well. So I always select them, see them, and then others come in as well. So I'm just curious the actual feeling and the kind of the magic of the cards, really. How the process works and how it's evolved from you when you were, I think you said you were a child or a young teenager when you started doing the cards, and how it's developed for you in time. I'm just curious of that, the actual kind of process, the mechanical, spiritual, conscious process of how it works.
Well, I wasn't that young when I was doing, in fact, I was brought up, my family was quite Catholic, so cards weren't something we grew up with. But somebody took me to a card reading with an old gal, like she'd be in her 70s, I'm thinking. Of course, I'm in my 60s now, so I better not be calling her so old, but not too far behind her. But she would have been in her maybe late 70s, and she was doing readings out of this lounge, like a bar. We called it the quiet side of a bar back then. Okay. So I would have been 27.
27 code.
Yeah.
JFK,
so
yeah.
That's when maybe, or 25, between 25 and 27. So I got taken for a reading by another friend, a mutual friend, who brought me to this reader, and I got a reading. So yeah, maybe I was more like 25, and she's basically read my whole life with this one layout that when I did one-on-ones with clients, I did that layout. I often did it. It's not the zodiac, but another one. And you count out numbers. Interesting. So you get the person to give me a number between 1 and 9. That's what she said. Okay. So I think, I don't remember the number I said, but whatever I said, probably 5. It's my favorite number. So then she counts out 5, and every 5th card she puts down, and she does it in a layout. So every 5th card, but there's a certain layout she did. So I learned that layout much later when I studied tarot. So anyway, she told me my whole life, including that I'd be on, here's what she said. Don't forget, this would have been in the late 80s, early 90s. Yeah, I guess it would be in the 90s, early 90s. Or no, wait, it would have been, I can't remember, late 80s. Anyways, figure it out, you guys, I'm 60. Somebody figure it out. Anyway.
We don't think you are, though, Janine. You look like you're out.
Oh, you don't look, not even close. No.
Yay, that's good.
Not even close, yeah.
She even said, I'm going to be on television. Okay, television. I guess this is television. Being a reader. And I would become known, really well known. And I would have a huge following, which is interesting. Because now I got 150,000 subscribers on one channel and 93 or 4 on the other channel. I'm heading for 100,000 on the other channel, which is, I used to call it my little channel, but it's not so little anymore. So it's pretty good, right? And but the way she described it, it's going to get even bigger. So I'm thinking we must be right about a lot of these things. Because if I'm wrong about the whole white hat thing and everything, obviously I'm not going to keep going as good as I'm going.
Exactly.
But if we're right about it, like I think we are, okay, and some of these things actually come to pass, like the big things that we've been talking about for months and months, I believe that would really set it up for bigger, even fame. And she was describing it even bigger. Yeah. Where I would be doing cards for or being asked to visit very well-known people's places and everything. I'm thinking maybe Mr. T has me over for a card reading with, his family or something. I don't know. I'm just joking
I can see
around.
that.
Who knows? Yeah. But anyway, or some famous truthers have me over, whatever. And that's kind of already started. of tarot, and I'm going to be a stewardess, I said.
There you go.
She said, you will never be a stewardess. She said, all of your applications will be, the universe is going to rip them up. Nobody's even going to answer you.
Oh my God.
Sure enough, I never got one answer back. I must have wrote to every airline that was, and they were hiring then. Air Canada was hiring right at that. And I was desperate to be a stewardess, and nobody even wrote me back. So the universe was like, nope, you're going to be a tarot card reader. She said someone would give me a deck of cards, and I would fall into a meditation and get obsessed with them. And that's exactly what happened I can't remember how much later, but on my birthdays, a friend gave me a deck of the Thoth deck, the THOTH, Aleister Crowley's deck. And interesting, because the dark cult really uses that one, right? Because it's Aleister Crowley was a big part of it, but the woman that painted the paintings was an incredible spiritualist who was really good white magic. So it's a great combination of dark magic and white magic, masculine and feminine. So it's actually a really tricky deck to use. You have to be really, really sure what side of that fence you're on. But it's brilliant. It's a brilliant deck. I learned on it. I found a teacher, a friend of mine took me to my first, she found a teacher who was teaching it, and her and I studied together with this gal. Turns out the woman that taught me was from a satanic ritual abuse family, but we didn't know to call it that then. But she described her family. He was a preacher, her dad, and the mom was the wife of this preacher, and they moved all over. And they had many, many children, but they had them all performing, disgusting things for the cameras. They would photograph it, sell films of it, and do it to each other just for their own. It was horrifying what they were doing. They birthed their kids just to be basically trafficked and in this way. Satanic ritual abuse. Yeah. So she grew up like that, escaped the family, and then was a card reader, but unfortunately, wonderful woman in lots of ways, but kind of messed up, unfortunately. I think she passed away recently, actually. She was quite elderly. Last time I talked to her, she wasn't even making any sense on the phone. So she was very in her 90s. So I would be safe to say she's left the earth plane. Connie Leonard, if anybody wants to look her up. But she was an incredible reader. But her life was really hard. So all of this led me somehow here to what I'm doing. I didn't even know about that stuff then, but she would tell us stories about it. It's like, whoa.
Wow. That's interesting that you mentioned Thoth, THOTH. So I did the numbers on that. That's 91. That comes to Psych. So my channel, Psych Club, Thoth, Thoth Club, same value. Interesting. Yeah. 71 is Lady Diana. It's Smart. It's Moses. Interesting. And if you do Thoth deck is 23. I am. So Thoth deck is 94. John. White hat. So with all this, it depends on your intention. Everything. Numbers are good. Everything's inherently good. But if your intention is pure, you'll be fine. If it's not, then you're going to get messed up, You
bet. Yeah.
That's what
Some
it is.
days when I'm not feeling really clear, I don't use that deck. No way.
Right. What one have you got today?
It could trick you. Oh, this one's feels really safe to me.
What is that?
That's the Rider-Waite. The Rider-Waite. A lot of people don't like the makers of it. Could have been a kind of on the dark side, but the deck doesn't really come across as tricky as the Thoth deck.
What's the last word on that, Janine? Wait.
Rider-Waite, WAITE. Those are two names, last names of people that had to do with it, right? Again, a woman and a man team sort of thing to create it.
Right.
Yeah, but I believe your energy just transfers into how the cards fall, like with your intention to you're asking. The universe just uses the tool. So your cards aren't magical on their own, but your energy transfers the magic, and the universe is, you guys agree to work with the universe. universal knowing uses the cards and manipulates them. Because the weirdest things happen. You could ask a question 3 times in a row. I don't recommend doing this, by the way. And it'll come out 3 different ways to say the same thing, or it might even come out the same. Sometimes you even get the very same cards in just different positions, but it's all saying the same thing. Like, cards work if you got the intention to work with them, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They work.
Yeah. It's interesting. So I just did the numbers on the rider weight. So rider is 54, which is love, which is also orbs. We mentioned that with the golden orb with Rachel. A weight, W-A-I-T-E, is 58, which is Nasara, which is Ivanka. I mentioned her earlier. Star is 58. But if you do the rider weight, that comes to 145, which comes to numerology. And we mentioned that earlier. And also we mentioned Russell Brand, 145. So it's interesting how all these kind of key numbers we've mentioned, and then these new phrases or new words that I didn't know, but it's there, I feel like I want to get a deck. I want to just have a feel and just see what they're like, Yeah. Very cool.
I wouldn't know what anything meant. That's why we have you, Janine.
Right on. I got to get going though, guys.
Yeah, I got to get going too.
It's been a lot of fun, Janine.
Yeah.
And God bless you. We'll see you again very soon.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, Rach. And
Yes,
and again, if people have got to the end of the video, do check out the links below. The Tom Numbers Show, Top of Your Game, is launching. Well, it's launched now, as you'll see. So check it out. All right, everyone. Thanks a lot. God bless. Take care.
Bye, guys.
Bye.